Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Dragonfighter's YouTube channel. So I saw a video online made by Hair Metal Guru, who I really like. Go check out his channel. Just look up the Hair Metal Guru. He's really awesome. He has a lot of special guests on who are awesome. But recently they did a video on Guns N' Roses, and kind of the question is Guns N' Roses overrated? I can see some of the controversy behind Guns N' Roses and, their catalog, their output not being as big as some other bands. Um, all that kind of stuff, there is some controversy, but I want to talk about what I think. First of all, I love Guns N' Roses. If you watched this channel before, you know that this isn't the first video I've done on Guns N' Roses. Um, But anyway, I want to kind of defend Guns N' Roses and actually talk about what I think they could have done to improve their stuff and make it a little bit better, um, in in a way that would bring less criticism to the band overall. Okay, so what could Guns N' Roses have done um, that I think would alleviate some of the criticism that they commonly receive, given the state of the band? I'm going to try to keep this realistic in what they could have done. So first thing I'm going to do here is grab Appetite for Destruction. There we go. So, um, let's face it, this album is perfect. This album doesn't need fixing. It is um, everything that it should be. It was so revolutionary. People, when they heard this album, it took about a year for it to finally blow up. So most people didn't really hear this album when it came out in '87. They heard it probably around '88 instead of '87. But whenever the first time you heard it was, or however you got into this album, you heard a single on the radio or you saw a music video on MTV, you went out and you got the album. I think this album has pretty much a perfect flow from beginning to end. You open up with Welcome to the Jungle. Great opening song, very high energy, exactly what you want out of an opening song. I mean, it even has the word welcome in it, so it's like okay, you're stepping into Guns N' Roses space now. You're gonna be experiencing this for the next however long this album is. I don't know what the total runtime of the album is, uh, but whatever it is, it's definitely over a half an hour, I'm sure. So 45 minutes to an hour long, whatever it is. Um, like I said, you step in with the perfect opening song, uh, with Welcome to the Jungle, and then you have the first six songs. If you got this on cassette or on vinyl, or I don't know if it ever came out on 8-track. I kind of doubt that it came out on 8-track because we're talking '87 now. But you would have side one with the first six sides, or side G, the Guns side, first six songs, and you're blasting through Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Night Train, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, and Paradise City. Then you kind of go for the little bit more melodic side, the side that's kind of a little bit more kind of love songs and ballads. As far as Guns N' Roses had ballads on this first album, they were still pretty hard rocking even in their ballads. But on side R, the Roses side, you got My Michelle, Think About You, Sweet Child of Mine, You're Crazy, Anything Goes, and Rocket Queen. And Rocket Queen, what a perfect closer. I just want to point out there, in addition to the three big hit songs that you would have heard on the radio or seen music videos of on MTV with Welcome to the Jungle, um, Paradise City, and Sweet Child of Mine. In addition to those three songs, you're getting these bonus songs, which I think could have and should have been big hits. They weren't exactly radio friendly, in my opinion, but they could, if radio was a little bit more loose with what they played, until this day, some like kind of hard rock slash heavy metal stations will play any track off of this album. But anyway, with Rocket Queen, um, it closes with the "Don't ever leave me. I'll say you'll always be there. All I ever wanted was for you to know that I care." Yeah, perfect way to end the album. Take it out with a little melodic uh, note there at the end. Yeah, perfect way to end the album. So that's Appetite for Destruction. Now, like I said, not going to change this at all. The one thing that I did think, I thought about, just briefly considered, was saying, hey, what if somewhere on the album you cut two songs? Instead of putting out a 10 track or 12 track album, you only put out a 10-track album. That way, you save two songs for the follow up. The follow up did end up having 8 songs, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you save two songs from this and you put them on the next album, lots of bands have 10, 10-track albums. That's a very standard thing. There's lots of, you can name the band and they probably have at least one album with 10 tracks. 10 tracks is very standard. Um, so if you did take out 2 tracks, you save them for the next album. Maybe it makes the next one a little bit stronger. But I just can't do it. I just can't take out 2 tracks because I don't know where to interrupt the flow. Of course, you'd have to take one track from side G and one track from side R, but what tracks would you take out, So I think it's perfect just the way it is. I'm going to say you don't mess with Appetite for Destruction. It's 12 tracks, that's okay. 3 huge hits, but every song on it is killer as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so what do you do next then? When you follow it up in 1988, uh, there were several things going on here. I think the record company, once Appetite blew up and became really big, they were like, strike while the iron is hot. Let's get out. Let's put out another thing um, for Guns N' Roses fans to consume. Okay, so first of all, one thing that my understanding is what Axl Rose wanted to do is he had heard that their original EP that came out before their um, debut full-length album, their original EP called Live Like Suicide, was, um, it was only printed in a limited edition. They only made so many copies. They sold out. That's how they knew. Okay, the band has a fan base here in the Los Angeles area. Would people care if we release them nationwide or worldwide or whatever. And so, but anyway, Axl didn't want the EP just to be something that only a select few people had. And those were 4 songs that Guns N' Roses had recorded that he thinks, he thought his fans would want. And so one of the criticisms is, oh, it's just 2 EPs stuck together, 4 songs recorded in 86, 4 songs in 88. It's just 2 EPs stuck together. So I think what you want to do um, is um, you still do it, you still have all 4 songs, but so that you have the people who know, and the people who don't, you don't need to tell them, oh, 4 of these songs have already been released, but because like who seriously, who owns a copy of Live Like a Suicide from Guns N' Roses? There's very few people actually own a copy. It was later re-released, so probably some more people own the later re-releases than the actual original and stuff. But yeah, Guns N' Roses fans need to have these songs. And so I say put all 4 of them on here. Just don't divide it up like that and don't necessarily even put those songs in that order. I think that the perception of GNR Lies would be much better if they didn't if they didn't put the songs in that order. Um, but I mean, these songs are awesome. Okay, so um, they're really awesome songs, except for the one I'll say that I don't think is awesome is One in a Million. But here's how you fix that. So um, you take One in a Million. You either just get rid of it altogether and just don't have it on the on the album, or um, you put it as a hidden bonus track. You do something. I mean, it's better just to leave it off altogether. Or the alternate idea, I think, is that they actually had a pretty good idea. I think Axel wrote the song, and I think he actually had a pretty good idea of, like, if it were just the love song part as the chorus. You're one in a million, babe. Yeah, that's what you mean to me. You're one in a million. Yeah, you're a shooting star. You can do all that. And you can have yourself a big hit and you can have yourself a good song. I mean, years later, like on the Trickster self titled album, their first album, their debut, they had a song called One in a Million, right? Guns N' Roses could have had a big hit with One in a Million. You take that chorus, you leave that as the chorus, it's a little love song, One in a Million, blah blah blah, and you just write basic love song lyrics to it. You just write some other lyrics to the song instead of going off on a racist, homophobic, xenophobic, whatever rant. You just write some actual love song lyrics to One in a Million, and boom, you have a whole new song that people would actually want to listen to. Okay, so uh, I think One in a Million, you just rewrite it a little bit, and it can be, a power ballad hit. It could have been just as big as Sweet Child of Mine and Patience. Okay, could have been a hit if you just rewrite the actual verses and keep the chorus. Okay, what do you do if you can't do that? You know, this let's face it, this album needs more tracks. I think you need to up it from 8 to 10. Again, you can get rid of One in a Million, but up it from 8 to 10. Now, I wouldn't want to overload it with covers, and I'm not sure exactly. I'm just being honest. I'm not sure exactly how many of these songs are actually covers. I know one for sure is a cover with Mama Kin. It's a cover of Aerosmith. I think Guns N' Roses actually do Mama Kin better than Aerosmith. Mama Kin is a song that was on Aerosmith's first album, and um, and you know you you listen to that first album. Uh, Steven Tyler's not even singing with uh, his kind of signature trademark Steven Tyler voice. He sounds kind of plain, kind of generic on that album. I think they later re-recorded it for a little Self of Sanity, and that version by Aerosmith is much better. But this Guns N' Roses Mama King is really good. Again, I'm not sure which other songs on here are covers, but they probably have enough covers on this album. Okay, so what we really need with GNR Lies is we need more songs. I think we need to get up to at least 10 songs. And again, I don't like the idea of taking two tracks off Appetite for Destruction because I just really like that album. I like the flow from beginning to end, and I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to mess with Appetite for Destruction. So we still put out 12 songs to Appetite for Destruction in 87. So what do we do to add more songs, especially if we're getting rid of one with One in a Million? What do we do to add more songs to the GNR Lies album? And again, I think we should change the order. We could open with Mama Kin. We could mix the 86 songs and the 88 songs together. Lots of bands have re-released songs that were originally part of EPs on their albums. So there's no big deal there. We don't have to advertise and let everyone know, hey, half of this already came out in '86. Now we're adding a few more in um, 88. But like I said, what I want to do is is fix this album. Now, some people might ask the question about the song "You're Crazy" because that one was already released on Appetite for Destruction. So my understanding of this track, "You're Crazy," track number 7 on here, is that Axel originally envisioned it as an acoustic song, and you know that it does have this kind of thing where the second half of the album is acoustic. Um, Axel, which I don't think you have to keep that. I think you can mix some acoustic songs with your hard rockers, which you're gonna want to still probably keep your hard rockers on side G and your love songs and more acoustic songs and power ballads and whatnot on side R, keeping with the theme of the first album, right? Um, but I still think you can find some extra songs to throw in here. Um, but with You're Crazy, Axel envisioned it as an acoustic song originally, but thought that it wouldn't fit, an acoustic version wouldn't fit for the Appetite for Destruction album. So he decided to um, record like a hard rocking, like heavy metal type version of the song for the Appetite for Destruction album, and then later released the acoustic version for GNR Lives. So it makes sense. It fits with his original artistic vision for the song. So what I want to do in order to fix the and fix the GNR Lies album. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this here, the original Hollywood Rose EP. These are songs that were, you know, a bunch of the members that would be in Guns N' Roses over the years were also in Hollywood Rose, including Axl Rose himself, right? So this one had 5 songs. And the 5 songs, you can see them there. Um, this one has different versions of those 5 songs, but 5 basic songs. So we got um, Killing Time, Anything Goes, Rocker, Shadow of Your Love, and Reckless Life. Now, Anything Goes, of course, ended up on Appetite for Destruction, right? So that's one song there that's missing. So we don't want to use Anything Goes. That's already on Appetite for Destruction. Reckless Life is already on the uh, uh, GNR Lies album anyway, and we're gonna keep that song on there, even though we're gonna change up the song order a little bit. So I think that um, Shadow of Your Love could still go, and that's a song that they would actually end up recording later on, and it would be on like a special edition of the greatest hits as a bonus track. And Guns N' Roses eventually recorded the song that goes all the way back to the early days of the demo, the Hollywood Rose demo. So Shadow of Your Love, that's a song that you could add to the R side, right, of of GNR Lies. Okay. And um and then you also have Killing Time would go um probably on the G side, as well as Rocker would go on the G side. But you could add these extra songs, and I think, let's see, if we take off One in a Million, that's 7. We add Shadow of Your Love, Rocker, and Killing Time. You're back up to you're up to 10 songs now. Again, change up the order a little bit. You can figure out, you know, which songs to put on side A and side B, or side G and side R. But you could make a decent album out of the material that they already had kind of lying around and could have done, right? I think you could make a decent um, album after out of that. And so I see no reason, you know, lots of bands put up their follow-up album, their sophomore album, uh, in the next calendar year after their first album, right? GNR Lies comes out in 88, Appetite came out in 87. It could have been um, a better album. It could have been an album that people would have respected more. It would have been an album that people wouldn't find immediately stuff to criticize about. Uh, it could have been, yeah, it could have been something special. And again, just throw a few extra tracks on there, get it up to 10. I really feel like they could have had something with GNR Lies that would have been where people would regard it as maybe not quite as good as Appetite, but like mostly better. Like depending when you see people rank Guns N' Roses and they rank um, the six official albums that Guns N' Roses have with uh, Appetite, Lies, Illusions 1 and 2, Spaghetti, and Chinese Democracy. Like the six official albums, and a lot of times the GNR Lies gets ranked in the bottom half. I think with just a few corrections and a few, um, a few adjustments, it would be in the top top half of their list, even if they still only have six albums. Um, it 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 would probably be a lot of people's favorite next to it might be people's second favorite after Appetite for Destruction. Oh yeah. Now let's talk about Use Your Illusions 1 and 2. So, of course, there's a gap between some people don't even consider GNR Lies a real album. So from 87 to 91, or even if you count GNR Lies from 88 to 91, there's no reason, again, I think, that they couldn't have had 10 tracks ready in either 89 or 90. Um, and had they done that, they would have been, like on pace with Poison, because Poison's first three, even though they debuted the year after Poison, like Poison first three albums, their first two albums, by the way, have had 10 tracks each, but um, the first three albums came out in 86, 88, and 90 for Poison, a band like that. Very similar thing going on with, say, Cinderella or whatever. So, um, they could have been on track to not have this perception of they don't put stuff out. But I always find it funny how people say that GNR Lies is too short, and then they complain that Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2 are too long. I guess you gotta find that sweet spot. But um, so here's my proposal for Use Your Illusions 1 and 2. If you still want to call them that, certainly at least one album needs to be called Use Your Illusion, but I'm not sure you need two. You can come up with a different name. But you could also have Use Your Illusion 1, 2, and 3. There are 30 tracks between the two albums. There are 30 tracks, so you put out a more standard length album instead of a big bloated thing that it is. It's something where you could have had three albums instead of just two. And again, I would say run what you want to try to do is you want to try to be um, getting something out in either 89 or 90 rather than waiting for 91. And they probably had enough songs. There were a number of Guns N' Roses songs that were released for like movie soundtracks. I forget which ones all were, but I know that some singles were being released during this time too. So before the albums even came out, the songs were being released in other format. But I mean, again, who actually just buys movie soundtracks? If you're into a band, you buy all the albums from the band and stuff. But a lot of people don't buy movie soundtracks, just like a lot of people don't buy EPs, and a lot of people didn't have the EPs. So it's nice that those songs got released in an actual album format and are available to everyone, like I was saying about Chain Our Lives. But now let's go to the actual album. So I know that the songs were not recorded in the order that they actually came out in. The first song recorded for the Use Your Illusion tracks were was actually "You Could Be Mine," which of course was on the soundtrack to Terminator 2. Um, and it was the first song recorded because it was the last song to feature Steven Adler on drums before Matt Sorum took over. This may be a little bit of a controversial opinion. I have nothing against Steven Adler or Matt Sorum, either one. But to me, Guns N' Roses has never been a band where the drumming just stood out big time, just stand out in the drumming. Um, I'm always okay with, the drumming just being, what it is. And the drumming is good, but to me it doesn't stand out as like, oh, you listen to Guns N' Roses for the drumming. To me, it's like you listen to Guns N' Roses for Axl's vocals and Slash's guitar playing and his solos. And yes, the other members of the band all have their roles to play. I mean, from my understanding, Izzy was a guy that they would bounce ideas off for lyrics, and he would help them put songs together. Not to say that he wrote every song, but that he at least helped with the writing and songs and stuff like that. And he's also a great guitar player in his own right, as is Duff. And the other people involved, they're all fine musicians, but um, to me, Axl and Slash really made the band Guns N' Roses. Um, and so, um, uh, here's my proposal for a Use Your Illusion 1, if you will, a ten track Use Your Illusion 1. First of all, you open up with My World. Again, this is going to come out in 89 or 90. You open up with My World. Now a lot of people are going to be like, wait a minute. My World sucks. I don't like that song. That's okay, because here's my proposal with that. Instead of, instead of being the final track on a big Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, total of 30 songs, right? 16 on 1, 14 on 2, added together, it's 30 songs. Okay, instead of making My World the final track, think about how My World opens up. The so you want to step into my world, he says, so you want to step into my, that thing there, and then it goes into that guitar riff and all that. Now, some people might still not like the song, but at least you're stepping into his world, and you know that that's what Use Your Illusions is going to be. Whether it's Use Your Illusion one, if there's only one Use Your Illusion, if there are two, if there are three, whatever. When you open up with that track, you want to step into my world, then you step into his world. Instead, what we get is 30 songs of Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. And at the very end of those 30 songs, he says, you want to step into my world? It's like, we've been in your world for like an hour and a half. Okay? We've been in your world, Axl. No, you put that at the beginning. It's like, you want to step into my world, you play the heavy guitars, and then you have whatever song comes next. Okay? But, again, you can put out um, you can put out, you know, 10 songs. Whatever 10 songs are the first 10 that are finished, or whatever. I mean, by this time, you're not as worried about what it's going to be like on vinyl or cassette by the time you're getting it out, either 89 or 90. And I'm hoping you can get out before 1991. You have at least 10 tracks before 1991. So either an 89 or 90 release, and it's opens up, you want to step into my world, guitar, then you play the other 9 tracks, and bam, you got Use Your Illusion 1. Okay? It's gonna have still, or it's gonna have You Could Be Mine, right? Is that the song, or is it Civil War? Maybe I got those two confused. I was thinking it was You Could Be Mine, but maybe it was Civil War, the one where Steven Adler still played drums. Did I get that backwards? It might have been Civil War. But anyway, you get your first 10 tracks. Like I said, hopefully you can have those out by 1990, at least. Then, then in 1991, you can release Use Your Illusion 2, right? 10 more tracks. 10 more tracks. Take your pick. And I don't mind covers. There's only 2 covers out of these 30 songs. You can put 1 cover on each album. That makes it a little easier. One less song that you have to write. I think that I think that the um, what is it? The Bob Dylan song "Knocking on Heaven's Door." I mean, um, Bob Dylan is a great artist to cover his songs because he's a good songwriter who is a terrible singer and a terrible terrible musician. So just pick Bob Dylan song, steal it, and put it on your album and make it a success. Good job, Guns N' Roses, right? You know, save the other Live and Let Die, turning it from the Paul McCartney version to the Guns N' Roses version, hard rock update. Great, save that one for the second. Use Your Illusion, whatever. Of course, by this time we're in '91. By the time Use Your Illusion comes out, Use Your Illusion 2 comes out, you're gonna by that time Axel has finished um uh uh Axel would have finished the um November Rain, right? So that's gonna be on Use Your Illusion 2. Um he always wanted to get it just right, finish it. That's gonna be a massive hit for Use Your Illusion 2. You're probably going to have, You Could Be Mine and or Civil War as massive hits for Use Your Illusion 1. So you're going to have your hits just like you had your hit with Patience on GNR Lies. You had your 3 big hits off Appetite for Destruction. If you want to put out a third, you know, again, don't do the whole release 2 albums on one day thing. Put out a third, Use Your Illusion, or come up with a different title, call it something else. And put out a third song, save one of the hits for that. Um, Don't Cry or something, which the 2 different versions of Don't Cry, like you can get rid of one version of Don't Cry and you can just throw in another cover song. I know Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones is one that they really like to do live in concert that never got released on any of their albums. They can throw that in there. They can throw in one of the covers they eventually ended up doing on the Spaghetti Incident. All right, 1992, you put out Use Your Illusion 3, or whatever you want to call it. Again, you would have these short albums, and just like with every other band, I think this is the thing that people miss. Every other band, they have these albums. They have a few songs that are hits. They have a few songs that are deeper cuts that the fan base really appreciates, and then you got a few songs that everybody calls filler, right? But during that period of time, they could have put out, Guns N' Roses could have put out, I mean, there are 50 tracks, not on my list, but I mean, there are actually 50 tracks, 12 on Appetite for Destruction, 8 on GNR Lies, 30 between the 2 Use Your Illusion albums. That's a total of 50 tracks, and again, you can fill it in, you can remove some, you can rearrange the order, you can fill it in with tracks from your demo, you can do it, you can add 1 or 2 more cover songs. And you would have a catalog where I think that people would look at the first five Guns N' Roses albums the same way that they look at the first five Motley Crue albums that came out in the 80s, right? Or the first five Metallica albums, the four that came out in the 80s and the one that came out in the early 90s, right? The first five Def Leppard albums, again, four in the 80s, one in the early 90s. Uh, and everybody knows that's the classic era of Def Leppard, or that's the classic era of Metallica, the classic era of Poison is their first three albums, right? Um, all of these bands that hit in the 80s, I mean, Cinderella only ever made four albums. Now, I know that there are bands out there that have much bigger catalogs. You got your Kiss and your Aerosmith and your everything. But I think that if Guns N' Roses puts out five albums, you know, first one has 12 songs, the next few all have 10 songs each. I think that they're looked on much more favorably. And again, like I know that Motley Crue continued putting out albums after that. I know Def Leppard continued putting out albums after that. But when people think of Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Poison and a lot of these other bands, what do they think of that classic era of stuff they put out in the 80s and early 90s? Some of these bands started in the 70s, 70s, especially some of the bigger ones like your Kiss and your Aerosmith and your Van Halens and whatnot. But again, I still think that Guns N' Roses would be much more respected had and they would get less criticism had they kind of followed a more traditional path instead of a lot of people just view Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 as like one big thing because they're dropped on the same exact day, and all that kind of stuff. But here's my overall thoughts. To me, I could take my top 20, 30, or 40 Guns N' Roses songs that I really like from the band, because they have put out this, that, and the other. Um, and to me, um, between their live stuff and their studio albums and everything, they probably got, you know, 20, 30, 40 songs that could stand up to any other band. You give me any other band, I can compile my list of my um, favorite, my 20 favorite songs from Rat, or 30 favorite songs, 40 favorite songs, whatever, from Rat, or from Motley Crue, or from Def Leppard, or from, you name the band, and there's probably, only a certain number of songs that I really like, the songs that I don't think are filler, the songs that, um, the songs that I really enjoy, rather they were hits or rather they were deep cuts. And I would challenge anybody to do this with any band, pretty much. And pick a number, 20, 30, 40, whatever, and pick some songs, and I can guarantee you, especially like you put your favorite, whatever that list looks like for you, of your top 20, okay? 10 and 10. Top 20 Guns N' Roses songs. And put them up against the top 20 from any other band. And you'll be like, you know what? Maybe I like Guns N' Roses more than I realized. Because they have songs that really kick some ass. So anyway, gone for a little over half an hour now, going on about Guns N' Roses. Love the band Guns N' Roses. Anyway, that's my defense of Guns N' Roses, and that's how I would fix Guns N' Roses if I could fix their catalog. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Dragonfire out.